Today we're going to be reading about Rosa Parks, and we're going to find out lots of information about her. And in order to get started, I thought it'd be fun, and they don't know we're doing this yet, but I thought it'd be fun to just throw some things out here. And these are some different things we're going to be learning about Rosa Parks.
Candy.
Candy?
What is that, Skittles?
They look like Skittles, but I think they're like
Barber?
It is Skittles.
I got it right.
Yeah, it's Skittles in a container, and they're all separated.
Oh!
okay, a hammer.
A hammer.
National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Wait, I think I know what
Okay,
this...
because Rosa Parks
I
was
think I know what-
African American.
The bus segregation, maybe? When she got her fingerprint from the police officer.
A barber. When she was arrested. Is that what you mean? by
Yeah,
that?
when black people and white people were separated. Because
Segregation. Nice,
when
Peyton.
they won,
Small things
To
change
change the
something
world
big.
big,
Change
yeah.
the world. Yep.
All right, so here's the game. After 2 pages, one of these apply to it. So it's up to you guys to figure out what's applying to the pages, all right?
okay.
So this is Rosa Parks. And thank you to Weekly Reader for sharing such wonderful stories. This is People from the series People We Should Know. All right, let's get started. Rosa Parks. So the table of contents right here. Chapter 1 is a little black girl. Chapter 2, married women. Chapter 3, lawbreaker. Chapter 4, a brave woman. And then the glossary, where we'll find definitions of words and for more information, and then the index as well. So let's go ahead and jump in. Chapter 1, Little Black Girl. Rosa Louise Macaulay was born on February 4th, 1913 in Tuskegee, Alabama. Her mother was a teacher. Her father was a carpenter. When Rosa was a baby, her family moved from town to town. After a while, they moved in with Rosa's grandparents. They lived in Pine Level, Alabama. Her father did not want to stay in Pine Level. He left for good when Rosa was 2 years old. Luckily, she still had her mother. She had her grandparents too. She also had a younger brother, Sylvester. He and Rosa were very close. Rosa and her family were African Americans. They had dark skin. Her grandparents had once been slaves. Back then, they had to do what their white owners told them to do. They did not get paid for their work. They were not free to make their own choices. But now they were free, and they had their own farm. On the farm, they grew fruit and nut trees. They had cows and chickens too. So in this picture it says when Rosa was young, many African Americans worked in the fields just as they had when they were slaves. And the next part, it was kept apart. African Americans were no longer slaves, but white people were still in charge. They had more money, they ran the government, and they made the law. Could possibly be the thing. But what do you think applies from what we just read here?
Kind of like this.
Her dad was a carpenter.
Her dad was a carpenter. Yeah, that's pretty big impact on her life, right? Her father left when she was 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So she was without a father.
And her dad was a carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Cutting his hair.
They ran the government. They made the laws. Do you want to read any?
Sure. In southern states like Alabama, they made laws to keep black people in their place. Black people could not sit next to white people on a bus. They could not use the same public bathrooms. Black kids could not play in white parks. Most public places were segregated. White people had the best areas. Black people had only what the white people did not want. The next section is called Getting an Education. In Rosa's town, there was a nice new school for white children. Rosa could not go to that school because she had dark skin. She went to a one-room school. The only heat came from an old stove. Many black children went to schools like Rosa's. Some of the schools did not even have desks. Rosa's school was 8 miles from her home. She could not take a bus to school. Instead, she walked.
8 miles?
She walked to school every day. She went right by the nice white school. So she had to walk 8 miles to school and then 8 miles back. How many did she have to walk every day?
16.
16 miles. Can you imagine walking 16 miles every
Well,
single
we
day?
had like 5,000 steps.
Well, yeah. She was a shy little girl, but she could stand up for herself when she had to. Once or twice, she stood up to the white boys who were teasing her and her brother. In those days, few black kids dared to do such a thing. They knew it could lead to trouble. Rosa had a strong sense of fairness, however. She knew it was not fair for others to pick on her because of her skin color. When she was 11 years old, Rosa finished the 6th grade. This was the highest grade at her school. And then this picture shows in the South, black and white people did not mix in public places. It says waiting room for white only.
All right, what picture? That talked a lot about... You think it's one of those two?
Yeah.
What do you think, Lauren?
I think it's the ball. I do think it's that one.
This one?
Skittles.
Skittles. So how would this picture of Skittles...
Segregation, because they split up all of the Skittles, which could, like, 3 of them, they could count for black and white people because they just split them all up.
So Rosa had to deal with lots of segregation, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So we just finished reading, when she was 11 years old, Rosa finished the 6th grade. This was the highest grade at her school. Most of the black kids in town went to work after that. Some worked on farms or cleaned houses for white people. But Rosa's mother wanted more for her child. She sent Rosa to school in Montgomery, a city about 30 miles away. Rosa stayed in school for a few more years. Then her grandmother got sick. Rosa went home to help care for her. After her grandmother died, Rosa did not go back to school. She got a job instead. Here's a picture of Booker T. Washington, who founded a school for African Americans in the 1880s. He knew that education was very important, which it really is. Chapter 2, Married Woman. While Rosa McCauley was a teenager, she met Raymond Parks. Dun, 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 dun. He was a barber in Montgomery. Most people called him Parks. He liked Rosa right away. When she moved back to Pine Level, he visited her. Parks did not like segregation. He did not like the laws that kept white and black people apart. He wanted to change these laws. Rosa shared many of his ideas. Rosa and Parks fell in love and were married in 1932. They settled in Montgomery. For the first year or so, Rosa went to school while Parks worked. After she finished high school, she went to work too. Her job was to sew clothes. Rosa became a seamstress.
I think Peyton found it.
All right, you think
He was a barber.
Well, why do you,
She pulled it right away.
well, why do you think how is that significant to Rosa Parks?
Because it's her husband's because he's a barber.
He was a barber. So Rosa Parks' husband was a barber, and people like to call him Parks. Parks. All right.
Finding her spirit. Years went by. Rosa and Parks were happy. Yet Rosa felt more and more wronged by the laws that hurt black people. In 1943, she took a big step. She joined the National Association of Advancement of Colored People, or NAACP. This group works for fairness of black Americans. Parks had been a member for a long time. Now he and his wife would both work for change. Rosa worked hard. She wrote letters and took notes at meetings at the NAACP would have a record of work. She helped black men and women register to vote. Later, she worked with black kids, teaching them to stand up for themselves without fighting. Fighting, she said, would just cause more problems for black boys and girls. The NAACP held marches and stood up for rights of African Americans in this picture. Even when Rosa grew older, she still liked to work with children.
There's a picture of Rosa when she's older.
I think this one because it was talking about the NAACP a lot, and that's the bad stuff.
Yep.
All right. So they formed the NAACP.
All right, chapter 3, Lawbreaker.
Chapter 3, Lawbreaker.
Rosa was still working as a seamstress in 1955. Each day she took the bus to and from work. Riding a bus was not fun for her. It was not fun for any black person in Montgomery. For one thing, the bus drivers were white. Many of them were rude to black people. The bus drivers did not let the black people sit near the front of the bus. they had to sit in the back. Even then, if a white person wanted a seat, black people had to give up the whole row of seats. That way, the white rider would not have to sit near a black person. Taking a stand. On December 1st of that year, Rosa took a bus home from work. It was crowded, but Rosa found a seat in the row with other black people. She sat down. Rosa's pick now, right?
Yeah, I think so. Unless I messed up, it could be.
This sign honors Rosa and the bus boycott in Montgomery. So they're showing this bus boycott
So what was the boycott?
sign.
Oh, just a boycott sign.
I agree that it's that because it said 6 times.
It said what 6 times? It said bus 6 times? Alright, so why is the bus so significant?
Because that's when she got in trouble and she started bus boycott.
Just relax. Yeah. Alright, let's read on here and see how that bus may be even more significant. At another stop, some white people got on the bus. All but one of them found a seat. One white man was left standing. The bus driver came to Rosa's row. He told the people there to get up. He wanted them to stand in the back while the white man sat in the row by himself. 3 of the 4 people in the row followed the driver's orders. They got up and moved to the back of the bus, but Rosa did not. She moved over so the white man could sit down, but she did not leave the row empty for him. The bus driver asked if Rosa would move. She said she would not. The driver called the police. The police came and arrested Rosa. They took her to jail. Here's a picture of Rosa getting fingerprinted here. When Rosa refused to give up her seat on the bus, this policeman took Rosa's fingerprints and put her in jail. Always a fighter, Rosa refused to drink from water fountains that were for blacks only. She would rather go thirsty than be treated in an unfair way. What do you think? You chose the fingerprint. Why did you choose the fingerprint?
Fingerprints at the police.
That's pretty significant. Why did she get arrested, Peyton?
Because she didn't follow the law and the bus driver because didn't want to get up because she didn't have rights.
She didn't think it was fair. Yeah. Chapter 4, A Brave Woman. The leaders of the NAACP heard about the arrest that same day. They paid bail so Rosa could get out of jail. Then they talked about what to do next. The leaders asked Rosa to fight the charges in court. They wanted to test the law, see if they could get it changed. Like Rosa, they thought segregation was wrong. They were tired of being treated unfairly. They wanted to have the same rights white people had, and they wanted the law to back them up. Rosa agreed. She would fight the law in court. The boycott begins. The leaders had another idea too. They asked all black people in the city to stay off the buses. They asked them to boycott the buses until the law gave black riders the same rights as white riders. The next day, the buses were nearly empty. Black people walked to work and to school. They carpooled. They rode in taxis. It was hard for them to get around the city. Even so, they did not ride the buses. Here's a picture. Rosa and her lawyer went to court to fight for fair treatment under the law.
I think
it's one of these. Not victory.
Not victory.
Probably this one? No.
Well, what did they say?
No.
What were they saying? What did they say no to?
No segregation.
They said no to riding the buses. Yeah, they were boycotting the buses.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to hurt them in the pocketbook, right? All right.
All right, let's see. This page starts with Martin Luther King Jr. One of the leaders of the bus boycott was Martin Luther King Jr. He was a great speaker. When he talked to a crowd, people listened. He became very famous. Dr. King helped change the laws that were unfair to black people. All right, months went by. People all over the country heard about Rosa and her case. They knew she was fighting for the rights of all the black Americans. They heard about the boycott too. Finally, after more than a year, the highest court in the land settled the case. The court said that the law was unfair. From then on, black bus riders had to be treated just like white bus riders. Rosa and her friends had won. Buses were nearly empty during the boycott. This is a picture of that. Yep, victory.
Victory!
So you chose victory.
Victory.
All right, let's send it over here.
Because they won the court. Yeah. Black people started riding the buses in Montgomery again. On the first day, Rosa sat in front of a white man. This time, she's not breaking the law. Black people could sit in any empty seat. They could keep their seats while white riders stood. They didn't have to move to the back of the bus. Black Americans soon began fighting other unfair laws. Many whites joined them. They wanted equal treatment for all. In the end, the laws were changed. Now our laws protect people, no matter what color their skin is. These big changes started with a small act. They started when Rosa stood up for herself on a city bus. For this brave act, people still honor her today. Rosa Parks is more than 90 years old now. She has seen many changes in her life and has helped make some of them happen. She has helped make the United States a better place. The old bus is now a museum. A statue of Rosa sits in the front seat. They put Rosa on the front seat, I think, because to show that she helped change it.
Mm-hmm.
And Peyton, you chose. Well, you didn't really choose this on the left, but there's a picture of Rosa
Somebody.
Parks when she was younger.
Oh.
So even small people can make big changes, and even a few people can make big changes. All right, so one quick review. So we have all these things out here on Rosa Parks. Her life wasn't easy. Her father left when she was very young. How old? 2 years old, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She dealt with segregation throughout most of her lifetime. She met
She got married.
Yep, Mr. Parks there,
She joined the NAACP.
which is help advance advancement for colored people.
She refused to move up to stand on the back of the bus to give her seat up to a white man.
She refused to give up her seat, and because she did that, Lawrence,
She had to go to the police station and get her fingerprints taken because she had to go to jail.
which eventually led to lots of people saying no to what?
Buses.
Yeah, they boycotted the buses, and after that boycott led to
Victory. They won. They
And
won.
won their court case.
they won the court case, and black riders had the same rights as white riders. And we learned a very valuable lesson about life, which is
Things can change to love.
right.
Yep. Remember that. There's something you're passionate about. Stand up for it. Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.